Hey, Bill, you can introduce Lou.
Okay, I'm just waiting for us to go live on YouTube.
I'll introduce the show and then you introduce Lou.
Okay. All right, we're live.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Police Off the Cuff After Hours. My name is Mark DeMayo. I'm your host. Along with me is my co-host, my partner in all things law enforcement, the very handsome, and he's got a new commercial ad out. Bill, can you hear me?
That was actually an old commercial that I just posted.
Okay, it's for a hearing aid, so I just want to make sure you could still hear me. Bill, you're out there?
Yeah, I'm here. That's the kind of job you get in. You can't see me or hear me.
I could hear you. I was messing with you, bro, with the hearing aid.
Okay. You know.
Introduce our guest, man.
You know how insecure I am with this being the engineer and all this other shit. And then you're messing with me. So tonight we have an unbelievable guest. He's actually a retired NYPD sergeant who I worked with. God, it was 1989, 1990 in the 2-6 precinct. That was my. When you got promoted to sergeant back in the day, they used to give you a 6-month command and your permanent command. So in case you fucked up, they'd only keep you there for 6 months, then they'd ship you out to your real command. Anyway, that's where I met Louis Lapietra. And I knew he was destined for greatness, but not in police work. You know, he was destined for greatness in something else. And sure enough, during his police career, he got a law degree, and now he's counselor, Lapietra and Krieger, his law firm, and he represents a lot of cops, but also the Captain's Endowment Association, which he's a great lawyer. So
you gotta look at this guy.
Lapietra.
What's up, Lou? How are you?
Good evening, Mark, Billy. Cheers.
Going?
I got my official. I don't know if you could see that, my Captain's Endowment glass right there.
That's a nice looking glass.
Yeah, well, you know, it's once in a while they give a nice little appreciation gift, and that it's always nice to be appreciated.
That's nice.
How you guys doing?
I got my Bengali IPA.
Oh, nice.
It's endorsed by alcoholics around the country, around the world.
Very
actually.
nice. It's a good looking label on that.
It's a good beer. I like it a lot. It's good. Packs a punch. Put it that way.
Cool. Billy, what are you drinking? I guess.
I just have my Poland Spring water standing by. You know.
All right. Somebody's got to keep it together.
I want to keep it straight. You know.
What do you got going on behind you, Lou?
So I guess you could see a little bit of my guitar collection up there. See that?
Yeah.
That's just 4 of them. I got about 19 or 20 of them. I mean, the rest of them are downstairs. These hang up in this is my home office where I've been working during the various cycles of this pandemic. Probably 90% of the time working from here, doing hearings from here, court appearances from here. And, you know, the nice thing about working from home is that you're going to have a good commute and you're going to eat well. The bad thing is, you know, I start at 7 o'clock in the morning and it's like, you know, tonight it's like half a day, 7 o'clock, and I'm hanging out with you guys, which is nice. I mean, I'm sitting here sometimes 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. It's nuts.
So
Yeah.
So in the office, take time off.
it doesn't stop. In other
Are
words.
you saying that you're actually working more from home than you would at the office?
Yeah, at least probably 50% more.
Why is that?
You know, I think because you're at home and people figure, well, you're working anyway, and why not? You know, they're going to call you up at you know, normally somebody wouldn't really call 8, 9 o'clock at night, and for some reason those norms during COVID are gone. You know, now
That's interesting. That's interesting because you're home. It's kind of hard to not pick up the phone.
Yeah. And the thing is, so you're home, but you're not. You know, you're locked in a room like this one. I mean, it's a nice little room, but still, you know, it's I'm sitting in front of a computer monitor all day long, and I'm on the phone all day long. And then sometimes, you know, my mother will call and say, hey, you know, you haven't called me. I want to talk to you on the phone. I'm like, Ma, I love you, but I'm on the phone all day. I'd rather come and see you.
Uh-huh.
He
That's
says, no, come and see me. This is the COVID. Stay home.
He's such an Italian son, man. You know, it's funny. In the 2-6, Captain Bacino at the time, God rest his soul, he used to love it because he could speak Italian to Louis. They could speak Italian together. You know? Oh, Louis, this is so great. We could speak Italian, you know.
Yeah.
That's nice though. That's nice that that your mother calls. It's funny how things work out, that you're home, but there's a downside to it. The commute's better, but people know that you're home. They know that you're not going anywhere. So if you don't get back to them, what's up?
It's exactly right. And we live in a society where nowadays more and more people want instant gratification.
Uh-huh.
You're on the phone, they'll ring your phone. You don't pick up the phone, they'll text you. Hey, I'm trying to call you. Right? And it's like, jump, man, jump. And, look, whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or a computer repair guy or gal, we're in the service business, man. Customer service is everything.
Uh-huh.
And, so while I could say, hey, I don't have a boss, I'm my own boss, but you become chief cook and bottle washer. And you got to make everybody happy. We all have somebody to answer to.
What's your prediction? How long do you think you'll be working from home?
I think for the foreseeable future.
I mean, 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year.
It's interesting, Mark. I've almost made it to the point where I have no paper. Every piece of paper I get, I scan and I have a system, and it goes online, and I can access it online. So whether it's whether it's a complaint report or whether it's a court filing or anything, a letter from a client, anything at all, I can access it from here. I can be in Miami. I could be in Italy, frankly. So I don't know. I may never go back to the way I was. I don't know that I need to go back. I mean, I have to go back. We do hearings from the office too. We do CCRB hearings from the office.
Wow.
Because in the midst of the pandemic, we've changed our rules, not only in court proceedings, regular court proceedings, but also with internal affairs and with CCRB and with, OEEO and those kinds of things, because to the extent that we can appear remotely, and that has its advantages and its disadvantages. If you and I are together in a hearing and you're being interrogated by internal affairs or CCRB, I think you would want me to be able to kick you under the table if you're talking too much. Here, I can't do that. What do? Wink, nod, do we do baseball signals? Like if I scratch my nose, that means shut up.
And you can't see the guy crying when it's going really bad.
Who's controlling the Zoom? Because if you're controlling the interview, you could put your guy on mute.
So more often than not, it's not defense counsel that's controlling the Zoom. It's going to be the agency, whether it's CCRB or the police department. And so originally people were using this format here. We're all on Zoom now. Then for a while, some people were using Cisco WebEx. Now everybody's using something called Microsoft Teams, which is supposedly the most secure. It's the hardest one to hack. This one supposedly is easy to hack.
What, Zoom?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any data to support that. That's just what you hear.
There's a security appendage there, but when you're putting together your Zoom, you can press it that you don't have outsiders. I did an interview the other day, and all of a sudden, I had another guy there. I didn't know about it while we were doing it, but I got an email that so and so is joining your group, and it was like it had a funny name too. Like you knew it was like a Jokey Jokester was the guy who stepped in my. I guess maybe he got scared or something. He saw two cops talking, and he didn't want to he got scared.
Oh,
he bailed out, but he was looking to jump in.
yeah.
I would love that for some guy to run across the screen naked.
Yeah.
Great.
And make for a good YouTube, that's for sure.
Oh yeah. We go maybe, but that'll be the one that goes viral.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
So Louis, a lot of changes from the last time you were on our show as to now, and none of them, frankly, have been good.
No.
The department getting rid of anti-crime, the diaphragm law, just the whole lack of support for the NYPD. The city council even tried to make a new rule recently about parking, paying people to rat people out for illegal parking. I just, it sounds like the Soviet Union, with some of these.
Well, what's interesting about that is, so supposedly the city council is progressive and quote unquote liberal. And I don't know, but I always construed liberal to mean free. That sounds to me like the opposite of freedom.
Yes.
Yeah, but they've been hoodwinked. I don't know if you can call the Democratic Party liberal anymore. It's either somewhat moderate or all the way to the left.
Yeah, and that's a shame. And I'll tell you, I think that a lot of the reaction, so most of my days now are spent in post-protest business. And what I mean by that is the Department of Investigation has been tasked by executive order to look at the department and determine what it is that they did wrong versus right in response to the protests.
Yeah.
So I've essentially had every single 3-star chief interviewed by the Department of Investigation. And these are compelled interview where they, so they read you almost this version of Miranda, right? And then they make you raise your right hand, because in the event that you say anything that could be construed to be against your penal interest, then, that statement is immunized. So that's the level that they've ratcheted this thing up.
What does that mean, that statement? That becomes part of court record because you said it?
What it means is if you say, for example, yeah, and the protester was an asshole, so I smacked him.
Uh-huh.
That sentence could not be used against you in a prosecution.
Okay.
They couldn't say Mark DeMeo admitted to smacking the guy. So that's what that means. So you have DOI looking at the department, and DOI's mission is to put together this huge report, and they probably will before the end of the year. My guess it's going to be 12 to 1,500 pages of stuff that nobody's going to read, but it's basically ammunition to reform, quote unquote, the police department.
Yeah, but when you say that, the police department's argument should be that we were told to stand down. So when you're asking me what's wrong, the problem that's wrong is that I couldn't use everything that I had at my disposal to put out to stop these people.
Well, it's interesting because without naming names, I did a recent interview. And one of the things that this guy was accused of internally was that the department didn't like the way resources were allocated and or manpower was set up during the protests, right? And what the core of the issue was, and he said it without expressing it the way you just did, was it doesn't matter. I mean, at one point we had 20,000 cops out there, right? But the issue is if you have the message to the police nationwide, not just in the New York City Police Department, is that we are not only are we not going to back you, but if you take a tactic that seems to be overly aggressive, we're going to arrest you.
Right.
Couple that mentality, that mindset with, Billy mentioned it before, the diaphragm bill. Couple that, it's a perfect storm with 50A. The repeal of 50A was when we were cops, our personnel records, including our disciplinary history, was sealed. It wasn't available to the public. Now it is. You can actually look yourself up. I found myself. I found that apparently I had somebody with a nightstick in the 80s and pointed a gun at somebody. And I showed it to my wife. Did you look yourself up?
Yeah. I was sleeping in the radio car.
Well, okay.
I'm surprised at that. Why am I surprised at that?
There's a picture of me sleeping in the radio car.
And so you get all that stuff. So what happens is, so now, you have that perfect storm along with bail reform, right?
Yes.
So bail reform says that if in the midst of COVID, a guy spits in your face and then curses at your family, threatens to sodomize your wife and children, and you collar that guy, chances are he's walking out before you're done with your paperwork. So you have that perfect storm. And what do you think the cops are going to do?
Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
And you know who does it? You know who does it? You know who's doing everything? The white shirts, my guys. You know why?
Yeah, they're taking action. Yeah.
Because
they're immune.
well, but those guys, it's not that they're immune, not at all. They're getting jammed up left and right. Billy, I'm averaging 5 to 10 CCRB hearings a week on allegations of captains and above. The full birds I'm talking about, 1-star chiefs. I had a 3-star chief had to appear before CCRB. Unheard of, right?
Yeah.
So they're not immune. But what it is they're generally older men and women. And they still remember when policing meant occasionally having to get physical with people. So they were not programmed in the academy to have hands off. They were not programmed in the academy to have, that it was acceptable to have a bucket of water poured over your head. So what happens is the generations of cops, the newer cops that were so programmed, aren't doing anything because that's how they've been trained. It wasn't like when we were around. So that's really what's up. It's not a matter of the resources. Mark hit it on the head.
You know what like broke my heart, and not just in New York City. There was a couple of incidences in New York City that I saw in the news. One of them was when that lieutenant got hit in the head with a brick, and the cop pulled his gun on the guy, and de Blasio wanted the guy fired.
That's right.
I mean, that to me, that was just a misinformed politician who, and just to put it mildly, is a jackass. Well,
it's interesting as time has evolved, and he's been more and more de Blasio. That is, and I'm not a fan, but he has been less and less critical of the police department because he's starting to become a little bit more clueless. I mean, he was completely clueless, but he's starting to get a little more clued in when things like that are shown to him and say, hold on a second. We want to put you in this scenario. We want to put your bodyguard in this scenario.
Yes.
Right? You're the lieutenant. Your bodyguard pulls a gun on the guy. What do you think? You think you're going to keep that bodyguard?
Of course.
Or do you want the bodyguard to turn and look the other way? You think he's going to still have that detail?
Well, I'm also very concerned with not just in New York City, but nationally on Article 35 of the penal law and the use of force and justification, because it seems like even the rules of justification are changing, and that you got to be concerned with using deadly physical force because they're looking to lock you up no matter what happened.
Well, right. It's the old, I don't think most people understand, and this is all pre-George Floyd. I don't think that most people understand that if you, and you remember this from your time, if you shoot somebody and you kill somebody in the line of duty, it's automatically reviewed by a grand jury.
Right.
You know what grand juries review? Criminal acts, right? So to the extent that a grand jury presentation or a grand jury investigation is undertaken, in the grand scheme, in the normal way of thinking, that means a serious crime was committed, which by implication says that a cop who saves his or her own life or his or her partner's life is by implication being viewed upon, at least temporarily, as a criminal.
Right.
So, knowing all that.
Let me just stop you for a second. What is the definition of homicide? It's simple. Death caused by another. That's the definition of it.
Okay.
Death caused by another. And it doesn't have to be criminal. You could cause someone's death accidentally. For example, restraint asphyxia. You could restrain someone. They could die from restraint asphyxia because their chest can't expand. And, from being a lawyer, and the penal law, there has to be something called intent that no one ever wants to hear about, right? It has to be either recklessly, intentionally, criminally negligent, knowingly, right? To get a conviction for murder or to get a conviction, period, right? But they don't ever look at that there is other parts to the law called intent, culpable
if-
mental states of mind, right?
It's not necessarily put out into the public domain. What is put out into the public domain is that the cop essentially, in today's world, well, let me ask you guys, if you had a son of police age, would you advise him to become a cop right now?
No.
I have a son.
Yeah.
He's of police age, and we never had that conversation because he never brought it up. But if he did, I would steer him towards another line of employment.
Well, doesn't that tell the whole story? I mean,
Yeah.
we came from a time when, I mean, I was a first generation cop. I mean, my mom and dad they came from Italy, So, but I remember talking to people. What's that?
You mean your
Yeah.
father wasn't a centurion or polizia in Italy, right? Or
No.
there's two police in Italy.
Carabinieri
Carabinieri and the
and
polizia.
Polizia.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's,
Becoming a cop is like me telling all my friends my son's a nurse. My son's he's in nursing school right now.
it's interesting, in Italy, if you become a cop, it's kind of like, it's not like, unless and until you become like a commander or something, they're like, yeah, you're a cop, big deal. And I never knew that. I never knew that until I went back to Italy as a I don't know, I guess I was a young cop, and they're like, really? So that's what you did? You became a cop? They're like, you couldn't do anything else? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, we thought you'd be like something else. I'm like, what else is there?
Well, yeah, because over there it's more like some guy, maybe you tell somebody to move their car, or there's not really that much crime there where you're tackling people and you're making collars every day. It's not
what they told me? They told me that when you get stopped on the autostrada, right, the Italian highway, the cop gets a commission on the ticket that he writes.
Mm-hmm.
He gets like 10% of whatever you write.
It's like our highway cops.
yeah, but they don't get a commission. They actually get a commission.
That was a joke, Louis. That was this highway was known years ago.
Well, they were like, because they had quotas. They'll never tell you that.
Yeah.
But these guys made their own quotas, and they tried to outdo each other because they could. Some guys were like driving, instead of driving Fiats, they were driving the best Alfa Romeos off duty because they wrote a lot of.
Hey Lou, let me ask you a question. So because we're in a stalemate right now because this is where Biden in the leaked audio suggests GOP beat the living hell out of us over defund the police. These it was supposed to be the blue wave in Congress and Senate, and it didn't happen.
Right.
And nothing's changed, and now we're up for Georgia's like we gained a lot of seats in Congress, put it that way, and we'll probably gain more. So if you have a president that's a Democrat and you keep losing the local elections for Congress and Senate and the mayor, whatever, the president can't do nothing. It doesn't matter. So my point is this: it's like they did shoot themselves in the foot. Where the blue states are in a bind right now. They got the progressives crying out for more. They won't back down at all on this defund the police, and everybody else is like a realist, and it's like, well, we can't do that because, you know what I'm saying? We're negligent on our job. So it could turn around right now.
I think you hit the nail on the head. When
I like when you say that, by the way.
Okay, good. I think you hit the nail on the head. You're right. There was no blue wave, and Biden is correct if he said that we got beat because of this defund the police business. He's absolutely right. Most people who you talk to, just on the street or in your family and your friends, I would think that most people are not about defund the police. I think most people want the police to be there to protect them because, frankly, in my opinion, government exists to protect me. If not, what do I need them for otherwise?
I know. I agree.
Right? So to the extent that people are saying defund the police, or a fringe element is saying defund the police, and that cost the Democrats significant seats in the House, and it did, that I see that as a good thing. I see that as a good sign because people are not going to turn around and listen. It's a matter of time. Billy mentioned earlier, anti-crime is gone, right? Those guys were the wolves, or I should say the shepherds, protecting us sheep from the wolves.
Yes.
Now you take those guys out of the equation, and the criminal is emboldened, and it's obvious to anybody who turns on a TV set that crime is up, shootings are up. How do you turn around and justify, no matter what, no matter how you slice it, how do you tell somebody who lives on a block where the shootings are up 50, 60%, that everything's going to be okay? It's not okay. It's easy.
Well, you know, Louis, they talk about, you know, neighborhoods that need the police the most, you know, where the most shootings are, the most murders, the most violence, the most robberies. And those people want more police. But yet a lot of politicians accuse the police of a term called over-policing. You know, this neighborhood is over-policed. But policing a neighborhood is determined by the 7 major crimes. And if you're getting a lot of shootings, if you're getting murders, if you're getting assaults, you're getting a lot of robberies, it's policed a certain way.
Sure.
You know? And
but that's reality. And a lot of these politicians are not into reality. They're into fantasy.
Right.
The fantasy is that if you don't over police neighborhoods that have a high rate of index crimes, like you just mentioned, the fantasy is that somehow those crimes are the stats are going to go down by themselves. The problem's going to fix itself.
Right.
It's never going to fix itself. It has never fixed itself historically, right? So it's not going to start now. If, in fact, there is not any safeguard in place, I mean, look, everybody condemned stop and frisk for that same reason.
You mean stop, question, and frisk.
Stop, question, and frisk. Fine. The bottom line is, you know, they keep talking about that there is no correlation between a lesser number of stop, question, and frisk and a crime reduction. But how do you reconcile that with what's happening now? It's a slow process. It's not right away. You know,
Right.
when stop, question, and frisk was deemed to be something of the past, it took a while for the people in the street who were willing to walk around with a gun. I think it took a while for that individual to figure out that, hey, I'm okay. I'm not going to be stopped, questioned, and frisked.
Right.
You know
It
what?
took a while. And now they're emboldened. They're shooting during the daytime. They're shooting on crowded street corners. Did you see what happened in Yonkers a couple of months ago?
Yes. Yes.
In the middle of Getty Square. If you know Getty Square, this is not unique to New York City. This is, you know,
Well, it's a cumulative effect.
What happened?
I'll tell you in Yonkers. So basically, is a guy firing and a bunch of cops chase him down, and it's like essentially a gunfight in the middle of a crowded street. When the cops finally corral the guy, a bunch of them jump. Actually, the cops I don't think ever fired around. I could be right. I might be wrong. I don't think the cops they showed tremendous restraint, but at some point they had to wrestle the guy.
Right.
If that was in New York City, they could have been charged under the diaphragm law.
Right. Right. Well, you want to go ahead, Mark. I know you want to say something. I'm sorry.
No, I forgot what it was. It's okay.
Oh, one of the things is some of these progressive ideas are really baffling. Like John Jay College, the old president, Jeremy Travis,
Sure.
he came out with this report using all leftist John Jay College professors and wrote a report on how you can drop violence in a community without the police.
You know what's funny, though? That's what I was going to say.
You laughed because it is
I'm
funny.
going to tell you something right now. We have a perfect example of what's going on in Minneapolis right now. And I think, you know what? This is a country. It's a union. It's 50 states. You can go and there's different laws in every state. You know, in Texas, you can carry a gun right on your sidearm. Over here, you can't have a gun. So why not let Minneapolis do what they want to do without the police? The city council voted for it, and let's just keep an eye on it. Maybe they'll figure it out. It could take a while. A lot of people could die. but let them have it. Let them have a go at it. Because I don't know, I watch movies. I never
Didn't they try that in Seattle and Portland? How'd that work?
What? No, but they had a weekend. I'm talking about, because this way, if you're a criminal and you want to commit crime, you just go there. You know what I'm saying? There's no police there.
Look, it's like Chicago. Every single weekend, there's between 25 and 30 people shot, at least 5 to 10 people murdered. And it's basically being allowed to happen.
Yeah, but she always looks shocked, though.
She's a moron.
She's always like this.
Her and de Blasio, should get together. Two morons.
She looks like what's
right.
that,
she's like this.
What's that? Beetlejuice.
But I mean, that should be intolerable that's happening.
But listen, at the same time,
Yeah, but here's the question, right? The question: where is it happening? I mean, aren't there some really Tony suburbs of Chicago that it's not happening?
Right? I have my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. I'm divorced now, but they live there, and they live wherever they live. It's fine. There's one area of it, and that's the irony of it all. Is just that the whole BLM movement, and yet these neighborhoods that are plagued with this violence are usually minority neighborhoods. Not usually, always.
Always.
And they're Black neighborhoods. So if you really wanted to do the work, that's where you start. You start asking for resources. Can we get more police here? We want to save Black lives. For every, incident that you see now, is nationwide, where there's a police.
And it's interesting because I guarantee you, if you were to poll the people who are, bolting their doors and putting iron gates on their windows and ask them if they wanted more police, I guarantee they say yes. So who is it that they're appeasing? Some fringe element that says defund the police or do away with the police?
Well, the problem
is do they really have that much political prowess?
The problem right now is
kowtow to them?
The people that scream the loudest via social media are the ones that we go to and we listen to. It doesn't have to be the biggest group anymore. So, like, look at Congress, for example. They call them, what do they call them? The squad. There's 4 of them. Maybe now there's 5 of them. I think another one joined. There's 6. But my point is that they're the ones who are like scaring everybody. And it's 4 or 5, 6 people now. And how many seats in Congress are there? They could shut them out in 2 seconds. But those are the ones who are on.
The hypocrisy is really, it's actually funny. I mean, Bill and I both live in Northern Westchester. Northern Westchester is essentially pretty quiet. Nothing really happens here in terms of major crime. AOC was born in the Bronx, I guess, raised, went to school in
Yorktown.
This same Northern Westchester.
Yeah.
Right? So how is it all of a sudden that she's in touch with urban blight? How does that work? How did she sell that?
She doesn't even know the
just
law.
Like J-Lo.
If you've ever heard her talk, she doesn't even know the law. She has no clue about the law.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of different train of thoughts with her. I've heard people say that she can never run nationally because nobody even knows who she is, and
I think they do know who she is. I think she's made quite the splash.
Mark, she won twice. That's scary.
You're talking about a tiny little area. I'm talking about nationally.
But she gets on a national when I think during the debates, I think Trump actually, mentioned her name, gave her legitimacy. I think that there's been a lot of when they talk about the radical left and the squad, just by virtue of the squad is known nationally. She's part of the squad.
What I'm saying is that it's not a lot of people, but they're loud. And social media gives the opportunity for the loudest voice. Everybody else is going about their business, and then you have these people crying and saying really radical shit. There's no answer to it really, or major response to it. It's just that's the only music that's playing in the background.
Yeah.
So we think it's everywhere, but it's really not. Until you look at the laws and what they set up right now, trying to placate because they're scared of these freaking people.
You know what's, I mean, this is a question I have for you guys. You know, we're all retired. We all enjoyed our careers in the NYPD. If you were in the NYPD now, in today's climate, and well, Billy, you were a supervisor, what would you tell your cops?
I would say make sure that you get home safely every day, and don't go out on a limb, because the rules of engagement have changed, and you got to protect yourself and your family more. And you know that's sad, because we used to always think about protecting the citizenry.
Right.
And I did 6.5 years in anti-crime.
Let me ask you.
I love nothing more than to grab the mutt that just knocked some woman down and grabbed the purse. And, you know, we came out of nowhere and locked the guy up. I love that. You know, to me, that was one of the greatest feelings in the world. But these days, there is no anti-crime. You got to be careful, because you tackle the guy now, you know.
If you wind up sitting on his chest, you could be a cop.
We're coming into a situation right now where the vaccine's coming out. So at some point, things are going to change, and basically overnight, when a certain amount of people get vaccinated. That guy in Staten Island that was claimed his bar in autonomous zone, the sheriffs went in to get him. Okay, it wasn't, for some reason, they didn't ask the local police department to go. They made the sheriffs go in there and get him, because they knew they weren't going. Well, I don't know what the one.
Regular police, they shouldn't have to enforce that.
My point is this: it's just the sheriffs upstate denied. They said they weren't going to enforce the Thanksgiving rules by Cuomo. It's happening all over the country. That's where the interesting part comes in, because these people, to wield their power, even though they need the police, because they don't really have an enforcement other than their voice.
Right.
So, in the other hand, is now you're going to get into a situation where if we'll see how much longer this goes. Another bar decides they're going to claim autonomous zone. Maybe there's 5 of them. Maybe there's 2 delis in a diner that say, fuck it. The vaccine's out now. We're opening up. Now, the only enforcement that you have, you could say all you want as a mayor, as a governor, if you don't have the arms, the tentacles to go out there and actually enforce it. And if these people aren't doing it, you're lost. So you're powerless. Now you're going to have to regroup and say, okay, and you're going to have to change, because you don't want to look like an idiot. You're going to be like, okay, we're opening up the restaurants again. Everything's fine.
Well, you know, it's good in a way that they get a taste what federal officials feel like when New York City and California become sanctuary states and refuse to enforce immigration law, which is a lot more serious than, you know, a bar that opens with and stays open, you know.
Yeah, but that bar is a big indication of people fighting back.
Yes.
And it's just the beginning. And now that the vaccine's coming out, you give it 2 or 3 months. I don't care what kind of nonsense you're trying to pull. The people, if you had the opportunity to get vaccinated and you didn't, all bets are off. It's just like the flu. I'm opening up. Fuck you.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? That's it.
Well, you know, another thing is, after 9/11, it took like 10 years for the city to fully come back. I think this is 10 times worse than 9/11. It's going to take New York City 25 years to come back, because they've decimated this city. They lost all the major taxpayers. They've moved out to their second home, you know, and they've destroyed the city while the tax base has left.
Well, the only way you can do that is by, like what I said, this vaccine's coming. There's going to be an opportunity for people to get it. They're going to have essential workers and whoever they pick to go first. Then there's going to be a moment there where you're going to have a choice. And then there's going to be another moment there, and I'm giving each one a month where, okay, you had the opportunity to get it. We're opening up. So either the government catches up, or it's going to be beyond your control, because at that point right now, you become like the prohibition. The vaccine's out there. You can get it. You chose not to get it. I got to get back to work. We're going to open up underground, speakeasies, whatever the fuck it is. It's going to happen. It's already happening now.
It's already happening. I was going to say that. Once in a while, you'll read about a big party getting broken up or busted.
Yeah.
like that.
It's great. I know all of them. There was one in the Bronx, a fight night, a bare knuckle fight. There's
Wow.
6,000 people getting married in Brooklyn, right next door to a firehouse. Nobody knew nothing. There's parties going on all over. 150 people getting arrested. But what I'm talking about is the vaccine is the deal breaker. They don't realize that, because when the vaccine is out, all rules are, the bets are off, because at some point you should have taken the fucking vaccine. It's there, and I'm giving it 3 months. I'm giving it 3 months before you, because this power that our local
3 months isn't bad. If it starts to turn in 3 months, where if there's a significant portion of the population that's vaccinated, it'll be just like some people will choose not to be vaccinated, but that's okay, right?
Yeah,
Some
that's
people
your
get the
choice
flu,
right now.
but it's not like everything doesn't become a potential super spreader event, because if there's a portion or a significant portion of the population who's gotten the vaccine, then the rest of them are taking their chances.
Listen, there's a lot of people saying, well, I want to see what happens. You have every right to see what happens. But once the thing is out there and it's available, and the initial rush to get it is over, there's going to be a period there, a small period, maybe 3-week window. And then after that, you had your opportunity to get it. The lines are not that long. We're going to open up.
Well,
And the government at that point right now, if you're still trying to enforce these things, you're going to lose it. It's going to.
Some government and federal employees, the government's going to force them to get the vaccine. What if you as a citizen say, I don't want the vaccine?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting too.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm asking you, you're an attorney.
I don't know. I don't know that they can lawfully do that.
Well, they do a lot of things that aren't lawful.
Well, I know, but the question is whether anybody calls them on it.
Sanctuary city is unlawful, but they do that, right?
Right. Well, I mean, and they tolerate it to a point, and then eventually
because what's interesting about that, it crosses a line between conservatives and real leftists, because that is a mindset that it doesn't fall between a political party and an anti-vaxxer.
That's its own thing.
Yeah, it's its own thing. So now you're creating a whole different group of people that don't want to get vaccinated, and they're going to bring up their own fight. And you're going to tell me that if you want to pass something where city workers or government workers have to get vaccinated, all it takes is one person with a lawsuit that says, I don't want to.
Right.
And it's going
to inevitably it'll get there. But it's funny how 3 months. So yesterday I spent my entire day in police headquarters. I was there from, about 9:30 in the morning till about 6 at night.
Who made the antipost?
No, I wasn't. Listen, I'm going to tell you, I was in hearings all day.
Good.
Thank God I brought a freaking power bar with me, because at one point I turned around to the investigator and I go, you realize if I was a collar, by now I would have gotten a bologna sandwich?
That's right. That's right.
I'm like, the guy's like, well, I got a banana. You want a banana? I'm like, yeah,
They didn't like when you pulled out some mozzarella and tomato out of your pocket.
yeah, right. I pulled out a
Like your own balsamic vinegar.
Hey, let me tell you what I got over here. But the interesting thing is, everybody in the building was wearing a mask. 3 months ago, that wasn't the case. Guys had the mask, they had it like hanging out. They had it hanging on one ear. Once in a while, everybody was walking. It was like walking around in a hospital.
You know what?
You can't get on the elevator without a mask.
Right.
During the hearing, at one point, the guy was talking. He's like, "Do you mind if I take my mask off?" But we were all sitting, 6-8 feet apart, so it was fine. But very different atmosphere in that building.
But they're saying that the 6-foot thing too isn't that scientific either. That people have gotten it 20 feet away from someone else.
Yeah, but don't forget too, if you haven't had it yet, right now you're at the finish line.
Well, that's the thing, and it's funny because have you guys had it?
I haven't had it yet.
I haven't either.
So my mask gets tighter and tighter until this. You had it?
Right? No, I didn't have it. My mother and my sister had it, and they had
What blood type are you?
What?
What blood type are you?
A positive.
See, you got to be careful because those are more susceptible. O plus is
Yeah, O is the best.
the lowest. Yeah, the thing is, like, as you get closer to the finish line, like my mask gets tighter and tighter. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm like staying away from people now. And, you know, in a couple of weeks, I'll be able to get the vaccine, see how many people kick the bucket off of it. If it's okay,
you're not getting the vaccine until April.
I think that's optimistic. I don't think you're going to get it in April either.
Nah,
I think that's very. I mean, unless you have a hook, and you know, like anything else, right? There's not supposed to be any preferential treatment or skipping the line or this and that. But it's inevitable.
I'm telling you, I don't think so. I think it's like look at what happened with the COVID test. You couldn't get the COVID test at all, and now I got 6 COVID tests in a week. You know what I'm saying? So all you got to do is I go to the city med, I put my name down on a list, they call me, tell me when to come back, and I come back and I wait 20 minutes. I'm getting tested.
Well, they've gotten it together, that's for sure. I mean, it was such a panic before. They didn't have any idea what they were doing. Now it seems to be a little more.
The problem is just that it's a two shot thing. So how many people are going to come back for the second shot?
And the second shot, do you guys know how much space between shot 1 and shot 2?
I think 3 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks?
Yep.
All right.
But there's certain companies, it's only 1 shot. I think Pfizer, it might be that you have to get it 6 weeks apart. But you know something, you got to wait to see what is the reactions from a lot of people. A lot of people are going to get sick. People are going to die from the, there's a certain amount of people.
Well, if you're somebody with allergies, with severe allergic reactions to things, like the kind of person that walks around with an EpiPen,
right?
You got to watch out. According to, you know, the latest is if you're somebody who could go into anaphylaxis because you have a severe, whatever, milk allergy, peanut allergy,
right,
penicillin allergy, you could have an adverse reaction.
I used to date a Greek girl named Anaphylaxis.
Was she shocking?
Yeah, you got my rim shot, did you?
Well, you know what though, that goes to reason. I mean, it stands to reason because those are the people that are most vulnerable.
Yeah,
you know, it's always that one more thing, you know, that you go to the doctor, it says, hey, you know, you're a little overweight, your blood pressure's high. If you get one more thing, you know, you got diabetes, you know, high blood pressure. If you get one more thing, this is the one more thing.
Yeah.
You want a second opinion? You're ugly too. That was the greatest Dangerfield joke ever.
Oh man, God bless Ronnie Dangerfield. Oh my God.
I won't even try to do it.
It's closed. They closed the club, man.
Club closed, yeah.
Oh, it did? It went out of business?
Yeah, I don't think they went broke from spending money on the decor because it was the same as it was in the.
It was the same like in the 80s.
Yeah.
I remember going to see Andrew Dice Clay there. He was the headliner. And I was on a first date, and there was 2 tables available. One was in the front, and one was way in the back. And the guy goes, "Which one do you want?" And I said, "Put me in the back." Thank God.
You didn't want him picking on you, right?
The guy who took my table got destroyed. The guy, he must still be psychologically scarred to this minute. I mean, destroyed. The guy was with an attractive girl, and what Dice Man just went off on this girl. I mean,
oh God.
I mean, my God.
I've heard the Dice say, "Hey, does she give good head?" Oh. And the guy goes, "How do you think she got that way? Practice." You know?
Oh yeah. All that kind of stuff.
Right.
Constantly.
I got to know the Tony. How do you say that last name? Levablanco?
Lobianco?
Lobianco. Yeah, that was
the actor.
Lobianco. He was an Italian guy. He played the bass in the band that used to perform before Rodney went up. Originally, the club was a band. Then he came to see Rodney, and he'd do an hour after the band. And every once in a while, he'd have a friend pop through, and he'd give him some stage time. And then it evolved into a comedy club. But Tony was the owner, and he was the co-owner with Rodney.
Oh, wow.
And you know, I used to perform there, you know, weekly, daily. And Tony used to tell me stories. And he said, like, it was just come out of nowhere. Like I'd be by the bar with him, and he go, Joe Namath sat right here, and he pointed to me. It was outside the showroom. He goes, the place was packed. We had to set up a table for him and his girl here. And he goes, the guy had two steaks. The reason why he mentioned that to me was because he was taking care of Joe Namath, and it bothered him that he had two steaks. You know what I'm saying? Like
because he didn't charge him.
Yeah, it's like Joe Namath.
In other words, Joe Namath.
About Joe Namath and the fucking Jets. You know what I'm saying? He's playing right now. It's not the old Joe Namath. Joe Namath in his prime, coming there to eat dinner, and he had to mention that to me. Yeah, the guy had two steaks too. The fuck. I love that story. I'll never forget that story.
He's like, he had two steaks, not even one, two.
Yeah, the guy had two steaks. That fuck.
Hey, pro athletes take more shit OTA than cops.
Yeah.
So that place had so much history in it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, that place was. I enjoy. I mean, the food was terrible though, man. I remember the food being like just god awful.
There was a guy down there, and if you were performing, you go down there, you order, like, you could have a couple. There was a couple things you can get. Obviously, a cheeseburger with French fries. You can get chicken wings with French fries, and you throw the guy $2. And the thing was, never give him $3.
Why? Because you spoil him?
Yeah. So when he started performing there, you tell the other guy, the new comic there, you said, listen, go downstairs. If you're hungry, go downstairs. Give the guy $2. Never give him $3.
That's so funny, man. Oh my god.
Hey, there's some really good lean beef behind this counter.
Oh man.
Serpico, remember that one?
Yeah. That's an interesting scene too.
Gave me all the fatty meat. There's some really nice lean beef back there.
You know what's interesting? I recently, I have a friend of mine is a retired sergeant. I mean, but he retired in the 70s, and he was an anti-crime sergeant even during the Harlem riots. Right? He owns a very successful jewelry business. He's a big watch dealer, and he's got a store on Central Avenue in Hartsdale. And he actually knew and worked with Frank Serpico.
No kidding.
Yeah, he remembers the whole thing. He remembers Frank Serpico. He remembers, he said Frank was always an eccentric guy. Like he walked around with no shoes. That he'd walk around the station house and the guy had like no shoes. Like he'd have flip flops, but he would leave them under his desk and forget that he wasn't wearing any shoes. And he'd walk around barefoot, like in the station house.
Maybe he was related to Vinny the Chin Gigante.
Vinny the Chin.
You know what's funny is that there are people like that. I worked with a detective, and I remember one time, his name was Alex, and so we worked opposite teams, and just to keep like camaraderie. And I saw that he was going on vacation. I said to him, so what are you doing for your vacation? In passing, our shift is coming in. He's going, what are you doing for your vacation? He goes, oh, I'm going to go spelunking.
What?
He said, I'm going to go spelunking.
Splunking, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's good. That sounds really good. And I just walked away. What the fuck? I didn't know what the
right.
spelunking was.
What is
that? I
that?
looked it up.
Caves.
Yeah. This guy was into like, cave diving. It's cave diving. You go in there.
I knew that, Louis.
That is
so it's just, and you know what was great about him though? My favorite thing that he used to do was, if he had somebody in the box, right? He'd go in there and ask them if they wanted something to read. And of course they're going to say, yeah, because they're sitting there. Back then, it was like, really, you didn't have your cell phone with you. You're just sitting there all by yourself, waiting for them to come and talk to you. You don't know what the fuck's going to happen. So he'd ask them, do you want something to read? And they'd say, yeah. And we had this whole stack of National Geographic magazines that he used to bring in. And he used to take 2 of them, and then he'd throw them on the desk there. He goes, read that. It'll change your life. And he'd walk out. It used to blow my mind.
Wow.
You used to see how pissed these people used to get.
Wow.
They didn't know what happened right now. It'll change your life.
Some of these, I mean, the characters, man, on the job. I remember when I around 90, 91, Billy, when I left Manhattan North, I remember I got a call. They wanted somebody who could write well. They wanted somebody to go to operations, right? So you mentioned Inspector Pete Buccino, God rest his soul. And they wanted me to go down there. And I said, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but I said, you know, Inspector, I want to talk to you. They want me to go down there, this and that. Remember how he used to talk kind of like,
Oh yeah, he's going. Hey, you got to go down there.
well, he was like a Jimmy Cagney, like,
Yeah.
he'd be like, what do you mean? What's the problem? I
Yeah.
said, well, you know, I really like it here. It's a nice precinct, and I got a good boss, and I got, you know, I'm working with good guys. I'm good, you know. He's like, listen to me, go down there. You can always come back. He goes, don't worry, you'll have a home here. He goes, go down to the building. You never know what happens.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
You
And
never came back, man. You came back
I
with a
never
law
came
degree.
back. I wound up spending the rest of my career in that building. But what I was going to tell you is, you're talking about like Splodunkin and these kinds of. I was a back then. Operations unit was on the 8th floor, right? And it had a desk just like in a precinct. And you remember the operations unit? It had like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5-story ceilings. Remember that? You ever go walk in there on the 8th floor?
I don't think I ever walked in. I used to call them a lot.
So the operations unit was kind of cool. Like, you'd walk in and it was like this huge room with a bunch of like workstations, people sitting at tables, mostly cops in uniform. And there would be a desk, just like in a command. And on that desk would be a sergeant and a lieutenant or 2 sergeants, right? And they were basically the city. You were the desk officer for the whole city of New York. It was kind of an awesome responsibility, right? And that was, you know, I want to say 90 or 91. Now in 90 or 91, that was just when the EEO thing started happening, right? The department was not really especially keen to listening
to women on the job, yes.
or especially trans people and gay people. Right. That didn't exist. Hold on a second. I just got to shut my door. My wife's clanging dishes in the kitchen, and you don't have to hear that on YouTube. But so anyway, there was one guy who was an old-time lieutenant with a serious brogue, right? God bless him, Jeff Henu. And Jeff, you know, sometimes when you either wore a uniform or sometimes you got dressed in a suit. Depends on what you were doing. And I used to like to dress real nice. You know, Italian guys like the double-breasted suit with the nice, you know.
Yeah.
You know? He would always say to me, oh, where'd you get that fucking suit? What are you in the fucking mob? He goes, right? So he goes, at one point, I decided that I was going to fuck with him. He used to fuck with me, so I wanted to fuck with him. So I call in. There was a guy who'd work a tape room. Now, there was a guy's job in operations was to monitor every news channel, take a VHS tape and make a tape of everything having to do with the NYPD, whatever it was, right? Because that had to be reviewed. We worked for
on the news. Yeah, they used to have all the news stuff.
But there was a tape room in there. So it was like a room. It looked like a TV studio. It was like, you know, TV monitors and tapes. And the guy who worked the tape room was a guy named Rusty Perez. And Rusty Perez was a big Hispanic guy, looked like a lumberjack with glasses. So he looked like an intelligent lumberjack, but he spoke very, very effeminately. Oh, I mean, to the point where he'd be like, how you doing, Sarge? You know, yeah, right? He sounded like J-Lo. So I decided that I was going to fuck with Jeff Henu. I make believe that I'm Rusty Perez, and and I call up, and I'm calling from the operation. I can watch him from where I was. It's a huge room, and I know that it's a tour change is crazy in operations. It's like a nutty time. There's a lot of phones are ringing, and back then we didn't have cell phones. I mean, we had the cell phone that looked like a car battery. Yeah, to walk around with. But behind the desk is all these phones. It was like the red line to Chief Johnston and the line to the police commissioner and all this kind of stuff. So those phones are ringing. He's going crazy. I call up and I make believe I'm Rusty. And I tell one of the detectives, I said, tell him, this is Rusty. I need to speak to Lieutenant Henu. So he goes, what is it? What is it? Tell him I'm busy right now. And he goes, he's busy right now. I said, it's very important that I speak to him right now. I need to speak to him right now. So he goes, all right, Rusty, what is it, Rusty? He goes, I go, Lieutenant, I'm not feeling too good. I need the day. He's like, what's that now? I need an E-day, Lieutenant. I'm not feeling too good. Oh, well, are you sick, lad? Listen, Lieutenant, I need the day. I don't know what to say. I need the day, man. He goes, well, now, Rusty, he goes, you didn't, why don't you call sick? Why are you calling in for the day? You seem to sound fine to me. I said, oh, so in other words, I can't have the day, but the cop can have the day, but I can't have the day because I'm the way I am. Okay, Lou. He goes, no, never mind, Rusty. You can have the day. Bang. Right? So he's sitting there and he's like beet red. Right? So with that, not even on cue, Rusty comes out of the tape room, and I see Henry look, and he goes, "What the fuck is that now?" Right? So I woke up and I go, and he goes, Rusty, didn't you call in for the day? He goes, no, Lieutenant, I'm standing right here. What call in for the day? What are you talking about? He goes, so I woke up, I go, Jeff, I'm fucking with you. He goes, you dago bastard. I'll get you, you dago bastard. He goes, you fuck. And I know you got mob ties too, you fuck. He goes, that's what he said to me. He goes, you in those fucking suits, you got mob ties.
You know, Louis, I think you went down there. They used to have this real old hairbag that used to answer the phone, you know? And one time Pacino tells me, we call it 8 juveniles for a robbery. He goes, make sure you call operations. So I call operations and that old hairbag answers the phone. I said, yeah, this is Sergeant Cannon from the 2-6. We have this and that. He goes, very really condescendingly, he goes, this is operations. And I without missing a cue, I said, hey, officer, I know how to dial a phone. And he didn't know what the fuck. I was like, his head probably exploded, you know?
I think if I had to guess, it was this guy, Larry Zontini, who looked exactly, if Fred Flintstone was turned into a human being, it was Larry Zontini. He looked exactly like Fred Flintstone. You know, all he needed was like that spotted leopard thing that Fred Flintstone wears.
Well, you know, at 1PP, everyone assimilates the rank of chief or inspector at least, right? No matter what rank they are when they talk to anyone outside the building, you know?
Yeah, that's a funny thing is like when whoever the power that be, if they leave, they get bounced out, promoted, and now all of a sudden you have their lieutenant or their sergeant there, and you know somebody else is coming in there, and there's going to be a clean sweep, and that freaking dude who was shitting on everybody when he had the phone.
Oh man, that's what happened
4 or 5 years
when Pulaski left. All the people with him and other chiefs that treated people poorly, their whole crew had to go, you know?
Yeah, you know, that's why I was like, it didn't matter where I was nice to everybody.
You have to be, yeah.
It's funny, you know, you talk about, you did your 6 months in the 2-6, I did mine in the 2-8. And when they looked at the transfer orders where I came from the intelligence division. They were like, intelligence division, and you're here? They go, oh, you're on a scholarship. They kept saying that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that meant.
What did it mean?
It meant that I obviously fucked up someplace because you don't go from Intel to the 2-8. The 2-8 in 1989 was like,
oh yeah, it was rocking.
It was rocking, man.
Yeah, it's the hub.
Oh my God. Right. And meanwhile, it's like, I didn't ask for nothing. I didn't get nothing. I was actually happy to get Manhattan North because I lived in Westchester. I was like, I could have wound up in Brooklyn. You know?
That's true.
So what are you doing for Christmas?
If the governor is listening, I plan on having 5 people. If the governor is not listening, I plan on having 20 people. Italians don't do Christmas small. I got to make 7 fishes. What does that mean? I'm going to have 3 people.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. It's
Nah.
overreach by and with no. It's like we talked about earlier. It's going to be an interesting thing that's going to happen right now with this vaccine.
Listen, I don't know any cop, constabulary, deputy, sheriff, or other law enforcement officer that's going to walk into somebody's house on Christmas Eve and say, you guys are under arrest, or you got to break it up.
That's where the interesting.
That's beyond the Soviet Union, man.
Because you know, at some point, you need law enforcement to be your tentacles out there to enforce all this nonsense that you want to do. And if you're talking about, you know, because if the Republicans are for less government, Democrats are for more government, and at some point they're going to have to relinquish this power. and it's tough to do, and they might just be forced to do it and have to backpedal. You're gonna see it and it's gonna be overnight, just the backpedaling.
Well, listen, your lips to God's ears, because as a moonlighting musician, I can't tell you how badly I miss that. And I miss Bill Cannon's daily song and concert. What happened to that?
Doing that after
You were on a roll, man. Would you run out of tunes?
I was just doing, I was doing it for a while. I got tired of it. And I was just like, when we started doing more of this, we were doing this twice a week. We do this on Monday and Thursday every week. So
I got a deal with to record the album, a comedy album, and they had to cancel the first one. And then I got a call last week asking me if I want to do December 17th. And I'm like, listen,
who's going to be at the gig?
Well, what I told them was, there's in 5 days right now they could do a complete shutdown of restaurants again. So I'd rather not cancel again. I said, why don't we just go into the new year and get 2020 behind us? I mean, I want to do this as much as anybody else, but
I mean, unless you're going to use a laugh track like they did in the 70s. I mean,
no, it's there's a lot of stuff coming out right now, rooftop stuff, and it's it just shows you the sign. It's cool, like a comedian performing on a rooftop for 15 people, and that's his new album or his new special, that he's hawking. But
it's hard, man. I mean, do you when you guys perform, right? And this is especially interesting to me as somebody who's been playing music in front of people for years. Do you find that if the audience, and this has got to be 10 times more intense for a comedian, if the audience is kind of like sitting there with their arms crossed and not responsive, does that take the energy out of you? Or,
yeah. And conversely, a really receptive audience energizes you.
Oh yeah. I mean, I
don't really. I don't take any prisoners or any hostages. I go up there and I slay. So if you want to sit there, it's only going to take me, the first joke before I get you to loosen up. Because the truth is, most people come out to laugh. They don't come out there to sit there with their arms tied. If they had a couple of bad comics up before them, now all of a sudden they become apprehensive. Did I waste my money? Did I waste my time? They want it, man. They really want it. And you go up there and you give them some confidence and you give them a couple good jokes up front, man, and they're with you, man. They want to go for the ride.
That's cool.
I never let an audience dictate. And as a matter of fact, if I have just an audience sometimes that in the middle of the week that is not that responsive, I go more in, and then I go, you know what? Let me grab this joke that I've been working on that I haven't had a chance to do yet.
Now's the time.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, so, right. Another loser.
I never let the audience dictate what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying? And if you want to give me a hard time, I go more in. I never back up. Cool. I'm like, if I was a boxer, I'd probably get knocked out because I keep coming forward. You know what I'm saying? I don't back up. I'm not backing up for nobody.
So Mark, we have a common friend, Frankie Hudak.
Yeah, I love Frankie.
So how do you know Frankie?
Well, Frankie's a comic, or he took a break now, but I know him from comedy. And then I bumped into him again at a party not too long ago. The funny thing is that I showed up, I bought a bottle of vodka for the party, so I don't show up empty-handed. But then on the ride there, I took a hit or two. You know what I'm saying? So when I show up, I'm handing the bottle to the person in the house, and I'm like, "Thanks for inviting me." And then he goes, he drank out of that already. And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "No, by the way,
have a little backwash.
Have some COVID." Absolutely.
You could just tell by the way I was holding the bottle, the fact that I didn't present it this way. Like by the bottom of it, I was holding it by the top when I gave it to them. I was hoping they would just take it and put it down with the rest of the bottles and not notice. But they noticed right away. So I was like, yeah, it's an hour ride. Yeah.
I needed a little something.
Yeah.
Wow. Frankie and I played Italian weddings in the 80s, man.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's like, he's
a good drummer and good singer too.
Very talented.
Yeah, and then he had a DJ business for a while.
Uh-huh. Now he works for Yonkers.
Oh, he works for the city?
Well, he does he records and films all their stuff.
Oh, cool.
Anything that goes on over there that requires some filming and stuff. But yeah, he's very, very talented. And he's a great guy. He reminds me of somebody that I would have hung out with. I grew up in Astoria.
Yeah, yeah.
He's exactly that guy. Like, like a living embodiment of the 80s.
We had a lot of laughs in the 80s. We played these, I mean, and I'm talking about, when I say Italian weddings, I mean like 80% of the songs were sung in Italian.
Oh.
He sang them. And before he joined that band, he was in a big, in the 80s, the wedding scene was such that all the Italians would outdo each other with a big production. And all of that production included the biggest, most expensive band you can hire, right? And some of these bands back then were getting 10 grand to do a wedding.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like Greek bands too.
Yeah, some good ones. And he was in a good one.
Greek bands.
Greek?
Yeah, if you're Greek and you get like, I married a Greek girl, and we had a really nice wedding, and we had a good band. But if you're gonna do a Greek wedding and you're gonna have 300 plus, you gotta bring the best band you can get.
Yeah. Well, I got a 300 plus wedding coming up in June. My daughter's getting married, and we got 300 plus, and hopefully they'll have their act together, and we'll be able to have it.
Johnny Fontaine will not get that part.
I think it's the first time somebody's ever mentioned the date, and I think I honestly think that could work out.
June 26th.
Yeah.
I hope you're right.
If I'm finally like looking at, because look, we're not even halfway through December yet, and they're talking about the vaccines coming out.
Listen, this thing has been an absolute train wreck. My son, who's a naval lieutenant out in San Diego, was supposed to be married this past July. COVID hits. They said, no, you got to do it in November. November comes along, COVID hits. Nope. You're going to have to do it next September. So now he's getting married after my daughter, right? Except now the latest wrench in their works is that the venue went out of business, is being taken over. And it's like, you can have the wedding here, but it's going to cost you triple. And I'm like,
wow.
Whoa, hold on a second. So it's just been.
Well, then my father sent Luca Brazzi there, and he said, "You either put your signature on a contract or your brains."
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's a tough time right now to plan anything and all these things, but I think the time frame that you're looking at, it should be okay. It should be.
Yeah, hopefully.
Especially the September one. I mean, that,
yeah.
And then there's moments where I start thinking to myself, is it ever really going to go back? I mean, there's so many things that have changed right now. Like you're talking about, we started the show, so we'll end the show in a circle, but you're working from home.
Yeah.
Right now. And, the only thing that could come up is a lot of these married guys right now, they need to get back on the road because their life sucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
They like the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks of it, but now they want to, they got to, how long can you keep texting that girl in Philly and the one in Arizona, when you do your field trips, when you go, you got to visit several offices, like, it's just like a comic. You're coming out. Yeah, I'm coming out, but now you can't come out anymore. So it's just a question of, are you going to get rid of all these gumadas, or are you going to figure out a way to start? We need to get back on the road again.
Listen, I gave up on the kumada thing as soon as I took family law in law school.
That's right.
You want to talk about the ultimate saltpeter? Read the domestic relations law. I guarantee you won't go for no more kuma.
Yeah, well, you know what? The saltpeter comes in too when you turn. I'm 53 years old right now.
Oh yeah,
that's what stopped me.
Yes, well, yeah, I'm 58, and that's a natural progression of things.
Sometimes I lay down with the laptop. I'm ready to go get to my business. I just get too tired. I'm like, I'll take care of it tomorrow.
Exactly.
We're not even calling up girls right now. We're just too lazy to rub one out.
At this point, I just, let me go get a sandwich and we call it a day.
Yeah, like your libido at some point. Yeah. That's when you find, whatever. If once a month, I'm good.
That's when you discover Haagen-Dazs caramel cone.
There you go.
I think we took up enough of Louis Lapietra's time. His phone's blowing up. This is the second time he's been on. We want to thank him. We want to talk about our Patreon too, Mark.
Yeah, we got a Patreon. We need subscribers to join us so we can continue on this venture. You see how much fun we're having, how much information we get on a weekly basis. Bill and I are doing 2 shows, one on Monday, one on Thursday, 7 p.m. consistently now. We have well over 100 episodes. We probably close to 200 episodes altogether.
We're locked in for 2 more years.
So
I gotta tell you, the podcast is great. I like to go on Sunday. I walked like 12 miles, and I listened to the Ralph Friedman episode, and it made walking 12 miles like fly by.
that was the first one we ever did, I think.
No, that was second or third. The first one we ever did was just you and I together.
No, I know, but it was like the first one we with this format of
We were actually supposed to have him back on. We never wound up having him.
I mean, I'm going. What I'm trying to do is I go back to the library, and I got to make time to. And it's the perfect time is on long drives. Like if I'm going up to Lake George, I always listen to you guys.
Yeah.
If I go on if I'm on a long walk or a long bike ride, perfect.
Everybody has their little podcast thing that they listen to on long drives. We want to be yours. We have the best in law enforcement, anything that has to do with law enforcement, and proof of it is tonight. This was great. We learned a lot. We're not out of the woods yet.
Well, Mark is also doing a show called One-on-One with Mark DeMeo. You didn't talk about that, Mark. Tell him what
Yeah,
that is.
I have the huge fat loser. He's
I love that name.
his name is Aaron Lohman.
As a cop, he calls himself the huge fat loser.
Well, what he has is a huge Instagram following because he was obese. He came from a family of obese people, got on the job and decided overnight one night after having a nightmare that he doesn't want to be like that anymore. And he changed his life around. And now he's a bodybuilder. I mean, the guy has an amazing physique. He's dropped over 150 pounds and he works actually, he's training other officers.
As part of the podcast, did you oil him up?
And now we're doing Zoom. We're doing Zoom, so I had to do a virtual, and that was
a virtual oil of his back.
Yeah, it wasn't the same thing.
That's great.
But yeah, and Bill has a true crime show that he does.
I tell you, I'm really enjoying doing that. In fact, you know who I got to agree to come on? Retired Chief Joe Herbert, superstar.
Yeah, he used to speak at the homicide course.
He solved the Zodiac case. The guy, what a nice guy. He's coming on Tuesday.
Oh,
cool.
yeah,
he used to do what do you got coming up, Lou?
Oh, I just have work, and more work. I got a CCRB hearing tomorrow morning at 8:30. That's what I got.
Oh my God. Yeah, but every time I look in the paper, you solve a lawsuit. Some lawsuit, 2 cops getting paid because of you.
That's not a bad thing.
No,
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, if I had someone to sue, I'd hire you.
You got a beautiful family, Lou. I always look at your pictures on Facebook. God bless you.
Thank you, Mark.
Merry Christmas to all of you.
Same to you. And tonight's the first night I have Hanukkah, so happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. And thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always good to see you.
All the best.
All right,
Take
good
care.
night, guys.
Bye.